Hello. Hello, hello. I'm check the stream on my phone, then I'll get reading. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, it's working.
Oh, are you recording something?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
I don't care if you play something in the background. This is literally just to keep me humble. There's like no point in this other than just me having very embarrassing videos of me on the internet.
You're recording yourself. Read that book
I'm recording myself read this aloud,
and
Uh,
then post it to YouTube.
and it's on YouTube. Yeah. Well, it's live right now on YouTube.
Ooh, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Yay. All right, go back.
Our local zoo had for years one of the biggest African lions I've ever seen. A huge male, nearly 500 pounds, with a wonderful mane and absolutely enormous paws. Panthera leo. The king of the beasts. Sure, he was caged, but I'm telling you, the bars offered small comfort when you stood within 6 feet of something that in many other situations saw you as an easy lunch. Honestly, I felt I ought to shepherd my boys past him at a safe distance, as if he could pounce on us if he really wanted to. Yet he was my favorite. And whenever the others would wander onto the monkey house or the tigers, I would double back just a few more times in the presence of someone so powerful and noble and deadly. Perhaps it was fear mingled with admiration. Perhaps it was simply that my heart broke for the big old cat. This wonderful, terrible creature should have been out roaming the savannah, ruling his pride, striking fear into the hearts of every wild beast, bringing down zebras and gazelles whenever the urge seized him. Instead, he spent every hour of every day and every night of every year alone in a cage smaller than your bedroom. His food served him enough. His food served him through a little metal door. Sometimes late at night, after the city had gone to sleep, I would hear his roar come down the hills. So, not so much fierce, but rather mournful. During all of my visits, he never looked me in the eye. I desperately wanted him to. I wanted, for his sake, the chance to stare me down. He would have loved it if he took a swipe at me. What? Would have loved it if he took a swipe at me. But he just lay there, weary, with a deep weariness that comes from boredom, taking shallow breaths, rolling now and then from side to side. For after years of living in a cage, a lion no longer even believes it's a lion, and a man no longer believes he is a man. Lion of Judah? A man is fierce, passionate, wild at heart. You wouldn't know it from what normally walks around in a pair of trousers. If a man is in the image of the Lion of Judah, how come there are so many lonely women, and so many fatherless children, and so few men around? Why is it that the world seems filled with caricatures of masculinity? There's the guy who lives behind us. He spends his entire weekend in the front of the tube watching sports while his sons play outside without him. We've lived here 9 years, and I think I've seen him play with his boys maybe twice. What's with that? Why won't he engage? And the guy the next street over who races motorcycles and drives a huge truck and wears a leather jacket and sort of swaggers when he walks. I thought James Dean died years ago. What's with him? It looks manly, but it seems cartoonish, overdone. How come when men look in their hearts, they don't discover something valiant and dangerous, but instead find anger, lust, and fear? Most of the time, I feel more fearful than I do fierce. Why is that? It was 150 years ago that Thoreau wrote, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, but it seems nothing has changed." As the line from Braveheart has it, all men die, few men rarely ever live. And so most women lead lives of quiet regression, quiet resignation, having given up on their hope for a true man. The real life of the average man seems a universe away from the desires of his heart. There is no battle to fight unless it's traffic and meetings and hassle and bills. The guys who meet for coffee every Thursday morning down at the local coffee shop share a few Bible verses with each other. Where is their great battle? And the guys who hang out down at the bowling alley, smoking, having a few too many, they're in the same exact place. The swords and castles of their boyhood have long been replaced with pencils and cubicles. The six shooters and cowboy hats laid aside for minivans and mortgage. The poet Edwin Robinson captured the quiet desperation this way. Miniverse child of scorn, grew lean. Well, he assailed the seasons. He wept that he was ever born, and he had reasons. Miniver loved the days of old, when swords were bright and steeds were prancing. The visions of a warrior bold would set him dancing. Miniver, born too late, scratched his head and kept on thinking. Miniver coughed and called it fate, and kept on drinking. Miniver. Without a great battle in which a man can live and die, the fierce part of his nature goes underground and sort of shimmers. There, the sullen anger seems to have no reason. And a few weeks ago, I was on a flight to the West Coast. It was dinner time, and right in the middle of the meal, the guy in front of me drops his seat back as far as it can go, with a couple of hard shoves back at me to make sure. I wanted to knock him into first class. A friend of mine is having a trouble with his toy shop because the kids who come in take him off, and he's snapping at them. Not exactly good for business. So many men, good men, confess to losing it at their own children regularly. Then there's the guy in front of me at a stoplight yesterday. He turned green and he didn't move. I guess he wasn't paying attention. I gave a little toot of my horn. Draws his attention to the fact that there's now 20 plus cars piling up behind us. The guy was out of his car in a flash, yelling threats, ready to fight. Truth be told, I went desperately to meet him there. Men are angry, and we really don't know why. And how come there are so many sports windows losing their husbands? Sports widows, sorry. So many sports widows losing their husbands each weekend to the golf course or the TV. Why are so many men addicted to sports? It's the biggest adventure many of them ever taste. Why do so many others lose themselves in their careers? Same reason. I noticed the other day that the Wall Street Journal advertised itself to men as adventurers in capitalism. I know guys who spend hours online e-trading stocks. There's a taste of excitement and risk to it. No question. And who's to blame them? The rest of their life is chores and tedious routine. There's no coincidence that many men fall into affairs not for love, not even for sex, but by their own admission for adventure. So many guys have been told to put that adventurous spirit behind them and be responsible, meaning live only for duty. All that's left are pictures on the wall of days gone by and maybe some gear piled up in the garage. And Simmons writes, men past 40 get up nights, look out at city lights, and wonder whether they made the wrong turn and why life is so long. I hope you're getting the picture by now. If a man does not find those things for which his heart is made, he is never even invited to live for them from his deep heart. If he is never even invited to live for them from his deep heart, he will look for them in some other way. Why is pornography the number one snare for men? He longs for the beauty, but without his fierce and passionate heart, he cannot find her, or win her, or keep her. Though he is powerfully drawn to the woman, he does not know how to fight for her, or even that he is to fight for her. Rather, he finds her mostly a mystery that he knows he cannot solve, so at a soul level he keeps his distance. And privately, secretly, he turns on the imitation. What makes pornography so addictive is that more than anything else in a lost man's life, it makes him feel like a man without ever requiring a thing from him. The less a guy feels like a real man in the presence of real women, the more vulnerable he is to porn. And so, a man's heart driven into darker regions of the soul, denied the very thing he most deeply desires, comes out in darker places. Now, a man's struggle, his wounds and addiction are a bit more involved than that. But those are the core reasons. As the poet George Herbert warned, he begins to die that quits his desires. And you know what? We all know it. Every man knows that something's happened, something's gone wrong. We just don't know what it is. I spent 10 years of my life in the theater as an actor and director. They were, for the most part, joyful years. I was young and energetic and pretty good at what I did. My wife was part of the theater company I managed. and we had many close friends there. I tell you, this is so that you will understand what I am about to reveal, in spite of the fact that my memories of theater are nearly all happy ones. I keep having this recurring nightmare. This is how it goes. I suddenly find myself in a theater, a large Broadway style playhouse, the kind every actor aspires to play. The house lights are low and the stage lights full. So, from my position on stage, I can barely make out the audience, but I sense it is a full house. Standing room only. So far, so good. Actors love playing to a full house, but I am not loving the moment at all. I am paralyzed with fear. The play is underway, and I've got a crucial part, but I have no idea what play it is. I don't know what part I'm supposed to be playing. I don't know my lines. I don't even know my cues. This is every man's deepest fear, to be exposed, to be found out, to be discovered as an imposter. And not really a man. The dream has nothing to do with acting. That's just the context for my fear. You have yours. A man bears the image of God in his strength, not so much physically, but soulfully, regardless of whether or not he knows the biblical account. If there's one thing a man does know, he knows he is made to come through. Yet he wonders, can I? Will I? When the going gets rough, when it really matters, will he pull it off? For years, my soul lived in this turmoil. I'd often wake in the morning with an anxiousness that had no immediate source. My stomach was frequently tied in knots. One day, my dear friend Brent asked, "What do you do now that you don't act anymore?" I realized at that moment that my whole life felt like a performance, like I am always on. I felt in every situation that I must prove myself again. After I spoke or taught a class, I'd hang on what others would say, hoping they would say it went well. Each counseling session felt like a new test. Can I come through again? Was my last success all that I had? One of my clients got a great promotion and a raise. He came in depressed. Good grief, I thought. Why? Every man longs to be praised and paid well on top of it. He confessed that although the applause felt great, he knew it only set him up for a bigger fall. Tomorrow, he'd have to do it all over again. Hit the ball out of the park again. Every man feels that the world is asking him to be something he doubts very much he has it in him to be. This is universal. I have yet to meet an honest man who won't admit it. Yes, there are many dense men who are wondering what I'm talking about. For them, life is fine, and they are doing great. Just wait. Unless it's really and truly a reflection of genuine strength, it's a house of cards. And it'll come down sooner or later. Anger will surface, or an addiction, headaches, an ulcer, or maybe an affair. Honestly, well, that's all the time I have.
think that it was a combination of just good luck and maybe somebody up there looking out for us.
Safe for the moment on an island called Guardian Angel.
We were soaked to the core, and we stripped all our clothes off and got on our sleeping bags. And got into the fetal position to try to conserve warmth. We were probably in pretty advanced
Honestly,
state of hypothermia.
how do you see yourself as a man?
But you know you've got a little cocoon of
Are words like strong, passionate, and dangerous words you would choose? Do you have the courage to ask those in your life what they think of you as a man? What words do you fear they would choose? I mentioned the film Legends of the Fall, how every man who's seen it wants to be Tristan, but most see themselves as Alfred or Samuel. I've talked to many men about the film Braveheart, and though every single
I assumed at that point that this was some kind of animal that was kind of circling us and checking out our campsite.
every single one of them would love to be William Wallace, the dangerous war hero. Most see themselves as Robert, the Bruce, the weak, intimidated guy who keeps folding under pressure. I'd love to think of myself as Indiana Jones. I'm afraid I'm more like Woody Allen. The comedian Garrison Keillor wrote many funny essays on this in his book, The Book of Guys, realizing one day that he was not being honest about himself as a man. He sat down to make a list of his strengths and weaknesses. Be nice, make a bed, dig a hole, write books, sing alto or bass, read a map, drive a car. That's useful things that he could do. Useful things I can't do. Chop down big trees and cut them into lumber or firewood. Handle a horse, train a dog, or tend a herd of animals. Handle a boat without panicking the others. Throw a fastball, curve, or slider. Load, shoot, and clean a gun, or bow and arrow, or use either of them, or a spear, net, snare, boomerang, or blowgun to obtain meat. Defend myself with my bare hands. Those are all the things he can't do. Keillor confesses. Maybe it's an okay report card for a person, but I don't know any persons. For a guy, it's not good. A woman would go down the list and say, what does it matter if a guy can handle a boat, throw a curveball, bag a deer, throw a left hook? This is 1993. But that's a woman's view of manhood. Craig and I were joking about this as we hacked our way through grizzly infested woods in Alaska. The only other guys we met all day were a group of locals on their way out. They looked like something out of Soldier of Fortune magazine. Sawed off shotguns, pistols, bandoliers of ammo slung across their chest, huge knives. They were ready. They had what it takes. And we had a whistle. I'm serious. That's what we brought for our dangerous trek through the wild. A whistle. Talk about a couple of pansies. Craig confessed. Me? What can I really do? I mean, really. I know how to operate a fax machine. All right, I gotta go.